Austria and skiing go together, and they brought that with them. So it's, as we conducted an interview yesterday, and people were talking about it, it's skiing as a way of life. Skiing is a way of life. It's all-encompassing. The mountains, the food, the camaraderie of being in the mountains together, which does create a certain special camaraderie. And even the music too, which plays a big part. And that was maybe the most interesting part for me of making the film, was the musical part. I got a lot of the music from the folk music archives in Austria, and especially in Tyrol, which is the province in Austria most closely associated with skiing. In racing, Austria has maybe twice as many medals as the next country, which may be Switzerland or something. So if you look at the medal counts, both the world championships and Olympic medals, the Austrians are, by far have been the dominant country. Skiing, and then in ski instruction, which is the most closely associated with this series, is the Austrians dominated the ski instruction world really up through the, I would say, probably 80s, and it had to do with three main people and all the people that around them, and the state actually supported them. Here, the Professional Ski Instructors of America is not government supported, but in Austria it was for many, many years.
The Arlberg system became the official Tyrolean system in 1925.
It's kind of hard to imagine, but they were making big money as ski instructors because the people from New York were coming up to learn from the elite, from these world-class stars, and Stowe was also hosting some big races at the time, and so the Austrians would serve as, would race in those races. They would also coach a lot of the elite American racers, as well as the Canadians came down to go through courses. You had these relationships that developed, and people wanted to ski with the Austrians because, not only because they were known, but they, it's someone from another culture, they have this different accent, different culture, and it's kind of exciting. Carl Farner, who ended up in Lake Placid after his time at Stowe, he was there for 8 years at Stowe. He taught Jacqueline Kennedy. He became kind of like her personal instructor, and then when he moved over to help run the Lake Placid ski school, she followed him. And Carl Farner represented, he came out of the Kruckenhauser school, which is covered in the series, and he was a friend with Kruckenhauser and worked for Kruckenhauser, and Kruckenhauser sent out these ambassadors, and Carl Farner was one of those ambassadors. And what did he do? He helped bring up the level of skiing, and he also played a role as if one looks through what he did there and all of his knowledge that he brought to bear, that also helped eventually Lake Placid get the Olympics, and then he actually helped run the alpine side of what happened at those Olympics. But then there were also, unfortunately, there developed, maybe understandably, some friction eventually as there were more and more Austrians coming, and there were a lot, in particular in Vermont. There were a lot at Stowe and some of the other ski areas. Mad River had some, Stratton, and Sugarbush, on and on. When you're a local and then all these people are coming from the outside and they're sort of running the scene, eventually there was some friction, and the Americans also wanted to assert themselves with their own identity and their own ski technique. So that happened over the years. But I think the important thing from this series is to remember America is a place at its best that is a place where various cultures can live in harmony and also celebrate and bring their strengths. And I think what the Austrians brought was that culture of skiing as a way of life, that's to be celebrated with all its music and cuisine and basically camaraderie. And the best of it is, yodeling on the mountain and having a great time skiing. That's kind of what I wanted to capture, and I feel is somewhat lost in today's world with the high-speed lifts and music blasting even on the mountain. I went to a ski area the other day, and that was, I wanted to do this because it takes away from the outdoor experience. And then you sometimes now have almost malls at the bottom of the mountain. And my hope is that maybe some of these things will come back because people will realize that, consumerism on the mountain, it may work for a while when people have money, but people don't have that much money anymore. camaraderie, music being part of that, romance all being part of that, and it was a special time. Take, for instance, the ski trains. You talk to anybody who went on the ski trains, and it was full of all of that at one time. You know, the romance. Sure, there was some drinking, but once again, I don't think that the object wasn't to get drunk. The object was to have fun. And you know, if you drank some along the way, then maybe that was part of it too. But that was certainly not the object of it. It was just a lot of fun. People have really fond memories, and partially my hope in doing the series that people, you know, sometimes things do come back. What goes around comes around, and I don't think that the present way that the ski areas are set up and the model that they're operating on, a real estate model, is maybe not sustainable long term, and that you know, I just recently am hopeful in that some of this will come back. I've heard you see little glimpses of ski trains actually starting to happen again. And as we heard yesterday from Lucille Wheeler, who was a top Canadian star and Olympian, a champion, she took from her time in Austria that, especially right after the war, the people didn't have much, but she said they were happy. Well, why were they happy? Because they were alive and out in the mountains, and they learned from the mountains and each other, and most of all, just real camaraderie out on the mountains.